So let's get into the definition of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is when another person tries to make you feel negative about yourself, make you feel ugly, make you feel insecure, make you feel unworthy of love, make you feel undeserving of greatness, takes away your power, because that's where all of your inspiration comes from, is your emotions, right? How you feel about things. And when you don't know how to feel about things because people are feeding you negativity instead, you lose a lot of self-esteem. Hey YouTube, it's Iman. I'm back today for another video, and today we're going to get into a very important topic, something that we should have been covered on my channel a long time ago, but I finally have built up the courage to make this video. It's one of the topics that first inspired me to create a YouTube channel to begin with, and my main goal here on this channel is to advocate for victims of abuse. And the main abuse that you can commonly find amongst everybody is emotional abuse, because you can't get in trouble legally for emotional abuse. You can get in trouble legally for physical violence, but a lot of the times emotional abuse goes unscathed. Sometimes you're not even aware that you're going through emotional abuse. You normalize a lot of the behaviors that take place, and it causes future problems for you down the road. Paw. Paw, good girl. Sit pretty. Good girl. Can you sit pretty in here? Good girl. Stop it, Zina. Okay, lay down. Good girl in here. Down. Lay down. No begging. Zina, lay down. Lay down. No, down, no, down. Zina, lay down. You got mad at her because she couldn't get it. Another thing to note is the main inspiration and the information that I gathered for this video pertaining to the religious side of Islam when it comes to emotional abuse will be found in the description box below. The video is also linked because, again, my channel is all about acquiring knowledge and furthering our knowledge in topics that aren't widely discussed. But I also wanted to note that the video that is linked is going to be talking more about spousal abuse, and I wanted to touch on a different side of it. So what if the emotional abuse actually starts to come from your family? What if it's not actually your wife or your husband, and in fact it may be your mother, your father, an uncle, an auntie from the community of aunties, right? It can come from anybody around you. Sometimes it could even be your own cousins. It could literally come from anyone. Sometimes it's even a friend, right? And what I wanted to touch on today is how that cycle of abuse is recycled from one generation to the next. So if one generation experiences a lot of trauma and then they go off and get married and have a bunch of kids, well, that same type of abuse is going to be recycled in the next generation. Same with physical abuse as well. But again, I want to focus more on emotional, because emotional abuse it goes unnoticed. Because again, physical abuse, you can see it, it's visible, you can actually get legally in trouble for. Emotional abuse, it's not that it's not that easy to identify. So let's get into the definition of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is when another person tries to make you feel negative about yourself, make you feel ugly, make you feel insecure, make you feel unworthy of love, make you feel undeserving of greatness, takes away your power, because that's where all of your inspiration comes from, is your emotions, right? How you feel about things. And when you don't know how to feel about things because people are feeding you negativity instead, you lose a lot of self-esteem. You don't have enough confidence to go to make the best decisions, because then you're going to start self-doubting. You're going to start questioning yourself twice about making certain decisions. You're not going to have the full scope of information to make an educated decision from. You're going to be basing it off of all of these negative emotions that have been conditioned into you. You're going to be conditioned to feel a certain way. You're going to be told that you have to be like this in order to be accepted or respected. When in fact, every single person is deserving of respect, love, admiration. Every single person should be cherished. Every single person has a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have this gift that they can find if the emotional support is there. So the best way for me to explain this would be to give you guys an example from my own personal life. My family has been the staple, the main example of what not to do when it comes to emotional abuse. I don't know if this is how it is for every single Egyptian family out there, but I do know that it does run deep in Egyptian culture for some odd reason. Maybe it's because of cultural norms, so they ingrain these specific ideas of what we should be at a young age. There are benefits to all of those things, but I'm talking about the delivery of the message. A lot of the times the way they deliver the message is in such a terrible, demeaning manner. They make you feel guilty for being anything other than what they want you to be. And if you're different, such as I was growing up, it makes it very difficult, right? So here in America, I was the first generation born on my mother's side. So I was the first grandchild of my grandpa and grandma back home in Egypt. And on my father's side, I was the second born. And I was right behind my cousin Ahmed, who's only 2 months older than me. So I didn't have a lot of, role models or people that already went through the ropes to show me the ropes. I was literally born in an unknown territory with unknown cultural norms, and I had to figure it all out while maintaining my own culture, my own language, my own religion, which wasn't as common back then in the 90s. So I found myself constantly being put up against everybody around me. I had to stand my ground. I was very prideful, however. I wasn't the type of child where I was like ashamed or I didn't like the fact that I was Egyptian. In fact, I loved it. The first chance I would get to tell somebody that I was Egyptian, I would always take it because I got a response that was thrilling. Everybody would always be like, "Oh my God, you're Egyptian? Like, I've always wanted to go to Egypt and see the pyramids. I always see you guys in the history books. I love learning about your country." And it just makes you that more proud. Now, throughout the years, in recent times, since 9/11, that narrative has definitely changed. Now you say that you're Egyptian, people look at you like, "Oh shit, watch out, it's ISIS." And point is that I was very prideful. I wanted to always make it known that I was unrelenting, I was unbendable from my true identity, what I identified as, which was Egyptian and Muslim, okay? I was the only girl amongst a bunch of boys, and for most Muslim families, that's a blessing when you have a lot of boys. But for me, it was a curse. It was like I had nobody that I can relate to. I remember vividly exactly when I found out that I was a girl, because they treated us equally, growing up. And I didn't understand that I was different than them until we all had to go potty. We were really young. And my auntie, who's super old school Egyptian, she was also she's a character, man. She had us go potty we had to go outside because we were on a trip or something. And she told all the boys to go pee at the tree. And I was like, "Oh, just go with them." She was like, No, you can't pee like them. And I was like, "What do you mean? I could pee like them. I could do whatever that they can do." I had that mentality ingrained because for some odd reason, I was always better than them at different things that we were doing, whether that's sports, whether that's education. Like, I was extremely smart. I used to always go head and head with this one, I believe he was Filipino in elementary school, kid named Amato. The reason why I remember this kid's name is because we were like, if you guys have ever seen Gilmore Girls, we were like Rory and Paris, okay? We were like, what did you get? Like, we were frenemies, okay? We hated each other, but we also admired each other because we were like, you know what? I see you, dude. I see you do your thing, but I'm gonna beat you, you know? And point is that I knew I had a lot of self-confidence. So I was also fearless. I wasn't scared to try new things. I wasn't scared of the fact that I was the only girl. I was like, I'm the only girl? Perfect. I'm representing out here. We gonna get it. For all the girls out there, I'm gonna show all of these boys up, because they used to always talk down to me because I was a girl. Now, the way my family went about this to try to convince me that my way wasn't the right way and that I should be more feminine and I should be... Look, telling a person, especially a child, of what they should be instead of showing them is very difficult to understand. I didn't understand why we were meant to be so different. And mind you, nobody ever took the time to ever give you the why. Remember the reason why, which is very important to most people, or they call it the rule of because. You're more likely to get a response of change, or what's the word I'm looking for? A response of change or accommodation from another individual, especially when it's something that they don't want to do, if you give them the reason because or why. So if you start off a sentence and you say, I want you to do this, what is the other person more likely going to say? Why? Right? If you don't offer that up already, so I want you to do this because this. Oh, okay. They're going to go do it if it makes reasonable sense. You get what I'm trying to explain here? So they never gave me that reasoning. And I noticed a lot of Egyptians have this mentality. I am your father. I am your mother. If I tell you to do something, you do it. And okay, that's fine. Perfect. I don't mind respecting you. I understand that you're more experienced in life than I am. You are my parent. I am here to learn from you. So teach. Teach your child. Tell them why. Why is this going to benefit you in the future? Instead of just shoving it down their throat. So I dealt with a lot of that. And I also dealt with the fact that since I was so tomboyish, I guess, for a lack of a better term, it didn't really sit well with a lot of the Egyptians that I was related to. So at all of the family parties, they would constantly talk down to me. They would tell me that, oh, you're unmarriable. Nobody's gonna love you when you act like that. You act like a boy. Why are you? It's like, but you did this to me. You waited until I was 7 to 10 years old to start telling me what I need to change about myself, when this is what I've been accustomed to since I was born. It was a very big change, and it came too late in life. That's something that you tell your child at a very young age. Now, I don't hold this against them because a lot of them were new moms, okay? They were young. My mom had me when she was only 21 years old. Same with my cousins. A lot of my aunts and uncles, they were very young when they started to have kids. So I don't hold it against them, but just for future knowledge, that is important, and for you guys to understand too. So if you experience the same things that I did growing up, take that into consideration. Being able to understand your parents and where they come from makes it a lot easier for you to relate to them, to forgive them for just not knowing better. And hopefully when you're able to pick those moments out, and you can tell yourself, this is This is how it could have been better. This is how the message could have been easier to receive. You could then do it for your child, and you can break that cycle of generational abuse. So, okay. From there, it went to after, going to family parties, and people would always get on me and tell me that they used to really try to hurt my feelings because, remember, I remember that I was very, very strong-minded. I was very unrelenting. I was very, strong-willed and fearless. I was an adrenaline junkie. I was that girl in the neighborhood that would play with all the boys outside. I would keep up with them. I would be one of the best players. And this was back in the 90s where people actually still played outside in the street, like everybody. And it was before technology, so all you had to look forward to when you got home was going outside, meeting up with your friends, and playing a good game of football, soccer, whatever it was. Put a ball, make it a competition. I was planning to win. I was very competitive. And so the area that I also grew up in, it was more of a poorer area at that time. It improved tremendously now because of gentrification, I guess. But before then, back then, it was very sketch. It was very sketch. So I had to hold my own outside, and that's something that I don't feel like my parents really understood. They just seen us, a group of kids playing outside, but really it was politics, okay? There was a lot of factors going on outside. There was a lot of bullying. There was a lot of people trying to challenge you to see how far they can take you and break you. And this even happened in elementary school, from elementary school, definitely in middle school. And high school was just, it kind of weaned off a bit. But the main times of my life where I felt the most struggle of trying to establish my footing in this new country that was foreign to my parents, and definitely me because I'm still learning the ropes here, it was difficult, to say the least. How did I finish this? Okay. And it just made it very difficult overall for me to find out what my gift was. What am I good at? Because I was told over and over again what I was supposed to be, what I needed to be. They never let me flourish into what I was meant for, the greatness that I could have held, the amount of intellect that I had. I could have literally done anything. With intelligence and athleticism, I was unstoppable. And so I had a lot of confidence. I did extremely well in the majority of anything that I put my mind to. And I had a very strong positive mentality. So when the adults tried to waver my confidence, I was always very quick-witted. I was always tit for tat. You say something to me, I give it right back. I wasn't disrespectful. I would stand up for myself, but I was not like that, oh, I'm so sorry, okay, I'll change. No, in fact, I was like, actually, I was very debatable. They used to tell me all the time, like, I should have been a lawyer because I would go and argue cases ever since I was a young child. They would tell me something about the Quran or something that, trying to find some reasoning and footing for what they're asking me to do. And since they didn't understand the Quran themselves that well at that young of an age, 21, 22, it made it very difficult for them to explain it to me. So when I found them, contradicting themselves and being hypocrites here and there, I would always challenge them. I would always nitpick and find them. I was really good at that at such a young age, and that's why they all hated me for it. So they piled on the emotional abuse, thinking that that's going to change me. It didn't. It just made it that much harder for me to connect with them. It made it that much harder for me to relate to them. It made it very difficult for me to open up to them and tell them about what I was currently going through and experiencing, from all of the bullying outside to, I took on this entire burden. I put it on my own back. Like, nobody else understands what I'm going through. You're on your own. You're a survivor. You're going to make it. You're going to figure it out. We solve problems over here. Okay? Like, literally, I was giving myself all these pep talks every single day, re-motivating myself, telling myself whatever I had to tell to get myself through that experience. And I don't know why this sounds so oddly familiar to like being in prison. No, just me? Okay. Let's see. Anyways, when you tell a child over and over again that they are not lovable, that they are not worthy or deserving of finding somebody that's going to understand them or care about them, or they tell you that they won't care about you if you don't start changing who you are, etc., it makes it very, very dangerous later on down in life, because when real life situations come, you're going to have no ammunition. You're going to have nothing to pull from. You're going to be so lost. And it also creates a sheltered environment. When you create a sheltered environment, that child grows up to be naive, susceptible to certain manipulations, to certain different traumas that, most people would be able to identify because they were well trained from their parents, right? And for me, I had nobody that I felt like I can go back to and talk to because I already knew what they were going to tell me. So emotional abuse, it can come from an aunt. Let's say that you're going to a family party. And I don't know why I thought of that, but okay. Family parties. I would walk in. First thing that my aunts would do was pick on my looks. They would pick on my looks because they knew that, from going out and shopping with me, they would see all the different kind of guys or boys that would like try to talk to me or hit on me. And they would just, I don't know if it was coming from a jealous or envious place or a place of concern. I couldn't tell because, again, the way they would deliver the message, it was always so mean. They would tell me, "Oh, Eman, you're so skinny. Like, are you sure? You need to eat more. Like, you're starting to look very anorexic." And then when I went through like the big traumas in my life, which I'll probably tell in a later video, but like the physical traumas, I started to go through depression and developing a lot of social anxiety. And I started to see my confidence and self-esteem diminish little by little until it was non-existent. And that happened because of these little moments. When I would sit there and go back to these family parties, and when I was a child, they used to be so much fun because I would see all of my cousins, I would see all of my family friends, and it would always be an adventure. We would play night raid outside. I don't even know if you guys know what that is anymore. But it's pretty much, anyways, I'm not going to go into it. It's a 90s game. Look it up. And it was I just remember it being all happy memories. And now, later on, after I went through those traumas and I had my depression, I would go to a family party, and if I gained a little weight, they'd be like, "Oh, man, you're getting so fat. You used to have such a nice body. Like, what happened?" And I would just be like, "Oh, what the heck? Like, okay, so if I'm too skinny, I'm ugly. If I'm too fat." And I wasn't even fat. Like, I guarantee you, I was not fat because I never exceeded like 130. This is the heaviest I've ever been in my life, and I'm currently like 124. And I'm 5'2". So on a BMI chart, I'm still in the green. Definitely not fat. And I'm telling you, I was an athlete back then, so I had muscles. You can kind of even still see my muscles, to be honest. That's why I still have these. Even though I haven't exercised, I'm super out of shape. Anyways, but the point I'm trying to make is that even it didn't matter what I really look like. They were going to look for something to make me feel bad about, regardless. Okay? And if it wasn't that, it would be, Iman, what happened with school? Why aren't you back in school? And again, depression makes you give up on everything. I had quit school for a while. I had quit college, and I gave up on everything. I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Around that time, I started having, terrible thoughts of just not wanting to be around anymore. And I was going through it. Like, if you were friends with me on social media back then, you would see it come through. At my lowest moments, I would post these crazy things of just not wanting to be here anymore. And so if you knew me back then, you knew that I would constantly be posting some crazy stuff online, because at that point I felt so isolated and so disconnected from my family. I felt a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and that's what happens when people talk to you in this kind of manner. Over time, you diminish slowly. It's like they're chipping away at you little by little until there's nothing left. So I had a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. You would see it on social media if you had me as a friend back then, and I would post things talking about like suicide and contemplating it and just not wanting to be here anymore. And that's literally the worst case scenario for emotional abuse, is somebody losing their own life over it because they can't handle it anymore. And I'm not even going through everything that they would say to me. I'm just telling you, like, the parts where I feel like you guys can relate to. We all have that auntie that comes at us for the way that we look every single time she sees us. And later on in life, I found out it comes from insecurity. When people are talking down to you, it's because they feel horrible about themselves inside. They feel like they're too fat, so they call it out on you before you can tell them that they're fat, etc. And oh God, man, it was exhausting. Now, there's two moments where I really did contemplate taking my own life extremely in depth. And I got all the way to the point where I could have quite possibly went through with it, except for the fact that I don't like to lose. Remember, I'm very competitive. So when I felt like I was about to lose this battle to life itself, it just didn't sit well with me. I didn't want to give them that final victory, like, got rid of her finally. She finally did it. I don't know what their end goal was. I just knew that they disliked me. They hated me. They would badmouth me to the entire family. They would literally have every single person from aunt and cousin to everyone in between think that I am the bad seed. Don't let your kids around her. She's crazy. She's this. Whatever it is, whatever it was. And it was all at the hands of that same perpetrator, ironically enough. So pay attention to that. What is it that this person is saying, and why are they saying it, and who are they saying it to? Try to find out a person's intention instead of believing and feeding into the things that they're trying to put into your head, make you feel. Do critical thinking. Think about, am I really like this? No. Because at the end of the day, they didn't really know me. Okay? They didn't. They knew that they just knew of me. They knew of the things that my mom, my dad would brag about to them. And if they didn't see it in their own kids, or they didn't see it in themselves, or it was something that they just never got to accomplish in their life, it would start bubbling up in these like hideous comments that they would make. So just keep that in mind. And I'm contemplating about whether or not, actually no, I am. I'm going to tell you guys about the 2 moments where I almost took my life and what stopped me. Because the other reason why I never did it is because I loved Allah so much. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I knew in my heart and soul that He was forgiving. He was the most merciful. And I would feel the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wash over me in my most darkest and deepest and most tragic moments. And I would constantly talk to Allah over and over again. And I would ask for help. I would ask for forgiveness for whatever the thing that they were trying to make me feel ashamed of for. I would ask for so many different things. And I actually had asked for signs from Allah of whether or not I should or should not go through with this, take my own life. And I'll tell you in a different video of what came out of that. I'm still here, so something must have happened, right? In the end, I just wanted to remind every single person that you are amazing. You are loved, cherished, you're admirable. You are gifted, because we're all gifted with something special inside of us that we're all able to tap into if we are nourished with love, understanding, compassion, and everything else in between at a young age. And they help us develop into what we're meant to be. If you are not doing that for your child, for your cousin, for your brother, for your mother, for your sister, sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes we have to nourish our parents. Sometimes our parents have been through their own abuse and struggles, and unfortunately it falls onto the child's shoulders for us to figure out, how can we make our parents feel better? How can we help them realize and understand their greatness, all of their accomplishments, what they were able to do for me, etc. And I know how difficult that is, because let's just say I know how difficult that is, okay? But keep in mind that emotional abuse can come from anyone at any time, anywhere. And it doesn't just fall within the spectrum of spouses. Now, I feel like that the reason why we get into these emotional abuse situations with our spouses is because we were groomed by our own family members at a young age to accept that kind of behavior. If you're in that relationship and you're just taking all of this emotional abuse over and over again, you're being told that you're ugly, you're being told that you're too fat, you're being told that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't do anything, you're so lazy, and they're just coming at you relentlessly, and it just makes you feel horrible and depressed and full of anxiety to even go outside anymore, to even have friends anymore, to feel unworthy of experiencing new adventures, to feel unworthy of whatever the case. That's because it was groomed, in my opinion, in us, through someone that was close to us at a young age. Because, come on, think about it. If you are well-nourished with love, attention, admiration, motivation, encouragement at a young age, you're going to have such a strong self-confidence. You're going to have so much self-esteem that if anybody ever tried to challenge you and tell you about yourself, you're going to challenge them right back. You're not going to take that. You're not going to believe it. You're not going to fall into any of that kind of abuse, because you already have a very strong foundation. You know yourself really well. And for me, that's what it was up until it wasn't, you know? So keep that in mind, you guys. definitely check out the video down below to further your knowledge. Remember to stay kind, remember to spread love and spread knowledge, and I will see you guys all next time. Love you.